place we gather, open hearts and open minds, sharing truth in every season, growing stronger through time. We're learning, we're growing, finding strength inside through real conversations. Together we rise. It's through real conversations. Together we rise.
Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of this video podcast, Real Conversations with Michelle. Welcome to the part one of my Career Evolution series. And this episode is targeted for those who are early in their career. I will also have two other episodes, one for those who are middle career and those who are near retirement or who are in retirement. So for this session, y'all, I have some professionals who are earlier in their career. But before we get started, let me just tell you a little bit about myself, especially for those of you who are new to me. I am a retired senior HR professional, worked 37 years in HR, 14 years with an investment bank, and 23 years with a global pharmaceutical company. Started my coaching business in 2017 and started my podcast in 2020 when there was a lot of stuff going on, y'all. And it was my way of reaching out and helping people in a different way since we all were virtual. So I am very pleased to be continuing in this space of learning and growing together. I cover a variety of topics, but I wanted to do something targeted for careers for this series. And you'll hear about something else that's going on next week for those of you who watched the first episode that I kicked off in March, which was targeted for people in their 50s. So, this is an educational program. And like all educational programs, I really emphasize do your homework. The opinions that you're hearing are just that. They're the experiences of those who are in these situations. But what I find is oftentimes when we hear from other people, we'll either validate something that we're doing or get a better understanding of how we might be able to apply something for our benefit. So make sure you do just that. Again, do your homework. So without further ado, let me introduce each of my guests, and I'm going to have them come up one at a time and just say a little bit about themselves. So first up, I will have Ariana. Hey, Ariana.
Hi.
Hi. Why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
Alrighty. So my name is Ariana Weaver. I work as an associate on the implementation and onboarding team for a finance technology company. And prior to serving in my role currently, when I first started out in the job field, I worked as an admissions counselor at my alma mater, Wake Forest University. So definitely a place where I owe a lot of my early career development and also personal development and growth too. But now I'm in the project management space for finance
Well,
technology.
thank you for introducing yourself. And Ariana and I have known each other since she was born and kind of got reconnected when she moved to Raleigh and just love her energy and her creativity. So thank you for being on. Next up, I'm going to have sorry about that, y'all. Started early. Can y'all hear me? Ariana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Started early, kicking myself out. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna have Demi. You ready for me? I'll bring you on. Hey, Demi.
Hi, I'm Demi Jones. I'm based in North Carolina and I work in as a quality control analyst in the pharmaceutical industry. I graduated from undergrad in December of 2022 from East Carolina, and I recently just earned my master's from UNC Chapel Hill this past December. This was my first job right out of school, so I've
Mhm.
been working in this industry for about 3 years now.
Thank you, Miss Demi. And Demi and I met 2 years ago, Demi? 2 or 3 years ago. I ran it,
Yeah, 3. Like
um
when I accepted this job, actually.
yeah, yeah, so
Mhm.
we've been on this journey of yours, since you started. But
Yeah.
we met during a, career circle that I launched about 2 or 3 years ago. So next up, let me bring on I'm gonna bring the ladies on first. Next up, I have Bria. Hello, Bria.
Hi everyone. My name is Bria Yates, and I'll start off saying that I'm a proud double eagle. I graduated with my master's last May in pharmaceutical sciences from North Carolina Central University, and I also earned my bachelor's in biology from Central as well. Um, I have been working in the pharmaceutical industry for the past 5 years as a specialist in quality operations in the live virus potency lab. And prior to that, when I finished my undergraduate degree, I entered the workforce in clinical research as a data technician in the VA hospitals.
Yeah, yeah, you've been in the workspace how long then, Bria?
Since 2018.
2018?
So
Okay,
yeah.
cool, and we met when she was a teenager, y'all, and love seeing her journey. Next up, I have Mr. Aline. Hello, Aline.
Hey, how are you? My
I'm
name is
good.
my name is Aleem Mohammed. Based out of LA, originally from St. Louis. Graduated from College of the Holy Cross in 2018 with my BA in economics, and then got my master's in marketing at Vanderbilt in 2019. Was a student athlete at both of those schools. That played a big role into where I pivoted into my career, but first started in the pharmaceutical space on IT project management, but then quickly pivoted into the footwear industry, where I've been doing product marketing and product creation for the past almost 6 years. So happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And I was in my promotional videos, I was telling folks, you and I haven't met. This is the first time we met, but your mom has shared so much about you that I knew you were perfect for this conversation. So thank you for joining us from the West Coast. So I appreciate you doing that.
Of course.
And last but not least, Roderick, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You're on mute, Roderick. Let me see if I can take you off. No, I don't know. Yeah, something on your end.
How about now?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know what happened. You were good when we first logged in.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't have a meeting without at least one technical difficulty, right?
That's right.
But
Look, I kicked myself right away, and that's the first this year. So go ahead,
uh,
introduce yourself.
so my name is Roderick Majid. Pleasure to be here today. Work in the pharmaceutical industry, particularly doing marketing, global marketing to be exact. Been in the healthcare industry for roughly 10 years now. And when I first started my career, I was actually in pharmaceutical sales. Jumped around through various aspects within the sales and marketing. And like I said, it's given me opportunity to expand my horizons here. Been in a phenomenal opportunity to be here today, get a chance to speak with you guys. So again, really excited to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And if someone is watching, could you mind just hitting us up in the comment section and let me know if you hear us okay? Because everybody sounds a little faint on my end, but on your end, everybody may be sounding pretty good. So if someone is watching, if you could just put a comment in, let me know how we're sounding on your end, that would be great. And then we're going to get right into it. Anybody? Thumbs up. Let me see some thumbs up or something. I'm going to, okay, good, good. Thank you, Melissa. All right. So let's get into the questions, y'all. So First question. When you first entered the workforce, what helped you feel confident even while you were still figuring things out? So who wants to be the first one to answer that question?
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, So something that helped me feel confident was having a mentor, like, and a trainer who had been in that area for a few years, and having them train me and allowing me to ask them questions about anything that I was unsure of, or just, showing me the ropes throughout the
Mhm,
day, just not only with like training tasks, but as far as
mhm.
just how to navigate like being in the building.
Good. And how did you go about, getting a mentor? Was that something just happened naturally or were you
I It would more so happen naturally, like, I wasn't out like, "Oh, I need to find a mentor at my job," but it kinda just, fell into place, like, the person that they assigned me to train, they ended up training me on almost, like, everything,
okay.
and then we started, like, spending, honestly, most of our workday together, so it was just easier for me and her to just kinda go through the day together, and if I had a question about anything like, "Oh, where do we go for lunch?" or where do we get this? She always had an answer. And if she didn't have the answer, she knew where to like go to find the answer for me.
Yeah, and it's so important when you're first starting out is to have that connection. Um, Aleem, how about you?
Yeah, I think the thing that gave me a lot of confidence going in was kind of going back into some of my past experiences just from school,
Okay.
from undergrad to graduate, and just learning that I had a lot of success there and trying to take some of that, what I've learned dealing with people with, specifically in the master's program with people that had their MBAs, people that are fresh out of college and being able to hold my own in some of those spaces. I think gave me a lot of confidence to go into the workforce and knowing that I could do that. So
Mhm.
just getting that some of that confidence just from having those experiences on my own, and then just from my parents, I think just gave me a really good foundation that I was supposed to be in these rooms that I was supposed to,
Yeah,
that I was in,
absolutely.
and kind of not having that imposter syndrome because you work to get here, um, and they selected you for a reason. So just having that confidence, I think, really helped me, especially just going into a place that I was trying to figure it out, and then even transitioning to the next roles.
Thank you, Aleem. How about you, Ariana?
Oh, I guess to piggyback off of that, I would just say the role. I applied to a lot of roles and positions that energized me, that I got excited about, that I thought I could do good work in. So going in, I was already really excited about the role. Off the bat, they partnered me with a buddy, so I had a buddy, and then similar to Demi, I also had a supervisor who was working closely to train me as well. So I was able to lean on those two people and then also kind of have my own separate conversation. So one unique thing that I did when I started my current role is that I met with every single person on my team, just one on one. Sometimes in regards to the role, other times just to try and get familiar with who everyone was because I do mainly work remote. So it was nice to just have that foundation. And even just know those little fun facts about my teammates to kind of like piggyback off of if I needed to ping someone and ask a question, having something to reference about them. But everyone on my team was super welcoming and asked me if I had any questions, but definitely like scheduling those different like coffee chats or like even 10-minute chats with everyone on my team really helps to give me the confidence to do the role that I'm in right now.
Okay, thank you. And how about you, Bria?
What helped me was our career advisor from my institution. She definitely gave us a lot of scenarios that we could face prior to entering,
Mhm.
as well as the professors at my institution. They all worked in industry, so they gave some insights on how to network in industry, and we tapped into the network we actually have at the company I'm at,
Mhm.
and they gave me tips and guided me while I've been at my company. And they also encouraged me to join EBRGs, and that also helped me gain confidence and network to see like professionals that are at my end goal and being able to get mentorship from them.
Yeah, and employee resource groups is good. How many of you have employee resource groups where you work? they call them employee resource groups. You have different names for them, but it's a great way to connect with individuals, and a lot of companies will have them specific to certain areas. So they could have one for African Americans, have one for early career, a specific area, maybe marketing, different things. But I always tell people, once you get your footing, definitely join an employee resource groups, because there you'll get to see other people throughout the organization. So glad that you did that. Bria, how many of you are in employee resource groups or attached to an employee resource group? Any of you yet? Okay. Okay, good. Roderick, how about you?
So, I'm actually going to bounce off what Liam said, and I'm actually going to say the exact opposite. So,
Okay.
when I first got into the workforce, I didn't have that confidence that I was supposed to be in the room, right? So,
Mhm.
in the first few months, it was actually a struggle for me, right? Because I walked in thinking about all the peers that joined within the class that I had for my work group as it is, thinking about how smart they were, thinking about the degrees that they had, the universities they went to, and I was constantly comparing myself to them, right? So it wasn't until I had the opportunity to speak to people, in particular people that went through their career development in a certain similar situation as me, right? That it gave me confidence that I could have a path, right, to get to the place I wanted to be. So it was really important that, I was able to identify people, not just to talk about how to do the job right, but just candidly to find people to talk about, hey, like I've been in your shoes beforehand, right? I know
Mhm.
what you're about. It's okay to not know all the answers. And then from there, I was able to start building up the confidence to push myself to find those new boundaries, right? So, you know, it was again not in a one in itself, but something that I'm very thankful that those people reached out to me and gave me those learning experiences early in my career.
Yeah, and thank you for providing a different perspective, right? Because I think there are a lot of people who come into the workforce like you, especially when it's your first time working in corporate America. And I know that was of course, for me, that was my first time. And I didn't have a lot of role models who were in corporate America at that time. My family, a lot of my family members were blue collar. So for me, it was like a deer in headlights, right? But what I love about each of you is that you did find a way to connect with someone. And Roderick, I remember you thinking one of my promotional videos, I said you and I met when you came into the organization as part of the talent development program. And I remember you were struggling, and I'm like, okay, I know he's here for a reason, right? And I was his HR leader, you guys. So a lot of times what ends up happening is people will get that first impression of you, and it's like, how do you ensure you're making the best first impression that you can make, right? And as Aleem said, being able to have that confidence that one, you are meant to be in this space, right? Um, doesn't mean that you're not gonna be nervous, right? Because how many of you were nervous just a little bit coming into the workplace? Any of you? Yeah, new experiences. Yeah, it happens. So glad you all kind of worked through that. Next question is about learning curves, y'all. So, what has been the biggest learning curve for you in these early years of your career? And whoever wants to speak first,
I can go
go ahead,
first.
Aline.
I think the biggest thing for me was just navigating workplace politics. I
Mm,
think that was a big learning curve for me. Not knowing that, or not coming in not knowing that I was just assuming everybody would have my best interests um, at heart, and it always wasn't that case.
yeah.
And then just figuring out just how to speak to people, because not everybody's kind of built the same or coming from like the same background as you. So even just learning how to talk to people to first get your point across, but then also to be like, okay, this person might not be the person I really need to talk to is in my corner. I have to work with them. I have to learn how to navigate that. but then finding the people that are really have your best interests at heart. And I think that was something that definitely helped me be successful when I pivoted into my next role. A person that really empowered me,
Mm-hmm.
and also taught me how to deal with some of the people that might be looking at me like, why are you here? What do they know
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know? And things like that. So I think that was probably the biggest learning curve. I'm still learning how to do that today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's always a revolving muscle that I'm still figuring it out. But that was definitely the biggest transition for me.
Yeah. How many of you all can relate to that? The political piece. Was it different than what you had expected? Anyone?
I don't really think I had any expectations.
Okay. How about you, Bria?
Yeah, it was different than I expected. I I think I expected it more from people at my level having
Mm.
you know, that sort of attitude towards me versus my experience has been people who have been above me more
Wow.
so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. How have you managed through that?
I've just been learning to accept that people can oftentimes see something in you before you do, and
Okay.
just kind of keeping my head down and doing what I'm supposed to do and not really engaging in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else in terms of learning curves? Anyone has anything different?
I would, yes. So
Go
like
ahead,
in
Demi.
school, like coming from school, like teachers and professors, they tend to coddle you a lot, and just hold your hand along the way. But that's not happening in the workplace. So just learning how to speak up for yourself and make sure you say what you want and not just let your manager, supervisor, or whoever tell you exactly what you want. I mean, sometimes it is good for them to tell you or like point you in that direction, but you're the only person like that has your best interest in mind. So speaking up for yourself was a learning curve for me.
Yeah. And I can tell y'all, I remember, um, and this came up later because I kind of, for me, always in HR, had my degrees in HR. So in terms of my space, I was good. I knew HR was my space, but I remember a position coming up, and I had spoken to my direct manager about the fact that I was interested. And I remember speaking to his boss, and he looking at me like it was the first time he heard it. And matter of fact, he didn't think I was interested at all. And I remember at that point, I said, I will never, ever allow anybody, to your point, Demi, to speak for me. I will make sure I get in front of the right people. Um, and when I have that opportunity, share, talk about my aspirations, talk about what I'm interested in, with as many people as possible, because that's how you build your network, right? You want people to be speaking about you when you're not in the room, right? So, Ariana, what about you? Anything for you in terms of learning curve?
Right. I've been sitting and thinking, I would say just understanding the workplace culture and like the team culture was something that was new in my early development for my first job, just trying to understand even the terminology that people
Mhm.
used on a day to day, or like the proper procedures in terms of like when you take PTO or OOO, like which one's you? How do you go about it? For higher education specifically, there's kind of waves of busy seasons when it's discouraged. So even just understanding that in terms of my team, like that, okay, like we try and reserve PTO for like certain times throughout the year because we're going to be busy during other times. Just really understanding the company culture and the terminology that's used within the company culture
Mhm.
would be one of the biggest learning curves.
Mhm. Yeah. Who didn't speak? Roderick,
I,
go ahead.
yes. So for myself, what I would say is it's not good enough just to be good at your job, right? When I first started off my career, after I got to the point where I felt confident in myself, really zoned in to making sure I executed well on the job. And at a certain point, I realized that I was so siloed into this bubble of trying to make sure I did good in terms of what was supposed to be on the remit of the role, that I wasn't extending myself out there to meet people outside of my team. I wasn't
Yeah.
doing an efficient job of, connecting not just with leadership, but with other people within cross functions and matrix partners, right? Because Michelle, as you just alluded to, it is key to understand how people are speaking about you in other rooms. And even if they're not speaking or saying things that are bad, it's still important they're saying something at all, or saying something good, right? You don't want it to be silent. So once I realized that, I could start seeing the trajectory of my career change, right? But definitely wish I learned that earlier in my career in itself.
Yeah. And I can tell you, as someone, I used to sit on our senior leadership teams. And how many of you know your company has talent discussions? Roger,
Mhm.
Roderick, I know you know that.
I certainly, yeah.
So, for a lot of the big companies, they have talent discussions where every leader that's reporting to your manager's manager will come together and have conversations about talent. And I don't know how many times I've heard from people other than the manager when a leader has brought up someone in their organization, people will say, I don't know them. I don't know them. And one of the things that I would encourage our leaders to do, but also those that I mentored, is make sure you get to know the individuals, right? Because we shouldn't be having conversations that people don't know you. But what also is indicative for you to be a make sure that you do is also that you are reaching out to folks. So there are talent conversations y'all going on behind the scenes. So, a lot of times we can get so in our bubble. And I think someone had mentioned about putting the head down that your peers may be sitting and standing in front of people and speaking to them. Those people who have the most reach, um, they're probably the ones who are going to get a lot of the opportunities when your leaders are sitting around talking. If there's a lot of people who don't know you, that's one of the things that they will come up and say is like, you know what, we don't know that person, right? And you would hope you have a good HR leader who would say, why don't you reach out to that person so you can get to know them, right? So, anyone else, anything else anyone wants to share in terms of learning curves? So that said, let's talk about building credibility because some of you kind of alluded to that. Have you worked to build your credibility and trust in your role?
I can go.
Go ahead.
I would say being consistent, like staying
Mhm.
consistent, showing up on time, staying consistent within my work. If an error is made, owning up to it, explaining why it was, why it was made or what happened, or just walking through the process so that they understand it was either just like misunderstanding or it's something that can be fixed. But yeah, staying consistent has proved me to my coworkers and everyone else, and has opened doors for me.
Yeah. Kudos to you for talking about um when things don't go well and being able to explain it. Because a lot of people will stay away from that conversation,
Yeah.
but it just shows your emotional intelligence around really
Hmm.
ensuring that everyone kind of understands what has happened. And the fact that you learned from what has happened is even more important. So kudos to you,
Yeah.
Demi, for
Yeah, I
that.
don't want anyone to have to guess like if I made an error or if someone else made it, and like I want to be
Hmm.
able to learn from it. So speaking up about it will just help me like not make the same mistake again.
Yeah. Yep. Kudos to you. Anyone else, in terms of building your credibility, what are you doing to do that? What have you done to do that?
Yeah, I guess I can add here. So, one thing that I've done is not only focus on exactly what my job is supposed to be, but as I've had these conversations with leadership, whether it be my manager, their respective managers up the chain, is try to do a better sense of understanding what's really most important to them, right? And is the work that I'm doing aligning to their actual goals in itself, right? As well as with the organization. And when I started to spend a little time meeting with my director, my VP understanding how they actually view the business, how they actually view the team in itself, how they want the future of the organization to shape, right? Then I start thinking about from my 9 to 5, how am I helping to shape that path forward, right?
Mhm.
Am I aligned to it? Do I believe in it as well? And from there, they started to see that I was not only bought into the overall goal from the organization, but I was really someone who could actually pay attention to what the actual needs were for the team. So that's certainly helped me out, especially over the past few years.
Good. Thank you, Roderick. Anyone else wanna build on what Roderick anyone else done anything
Uh,
different?
yeah,
Go ahead, Elaine.
yeah, I think consistency for what Demi said was super key for me as well. But I think another thing was having a point of view. I think I learned early on within like the industry and just marketing in general is when people ask you your opinion. I think the worst thing you can say is I don't know or I don't have one. Because then that person will never ask you again because like they don't even have any thoughts when it comes to this
Mhm.
project or this shoe that we're working on. And I think even if you're off the mark or because it can be very subjective within my field, but it's like if you have a point of view, if you have actual tangible thoughts that you can kind of convey and get across, even if it's not right, people are like, okay, at least you're thinking about it. You have something that you can add to this, even if this idea might need to be fully fleshed out. This part of the idea is really good that we can implement and add. So I would say just having that point of view is always super important, especially when you're coming to the table, and maybe even in a new team, just being able to add that value.
Yeah, and I can tell you how many, particularly, people of color who are early in their career, a lot of times what ends up happening, we're quiet. Some of it is a personality thing, right? Some people just like to listen. I know I was one of those people. I just wanted to listen and absorb. But what I would end up doing, and it took one of my managers to say this to me. After the meeting, I would go to her and I would just blah 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 blah. Blah. I would give her all the rundown, and she's like, Michelle, I need you to sit in these meetings and give your opinion. And it ties back to what I said earlier, in terms of people getting to know you, right? A lot of times there are, different people in the room who make different decisions about things. And a lot of times we have opinions. We definitely have opinions about stuff, but we might be shy about sharing that. One of the things that I will coach people to do is just say, look, here's my initial here's my initial reaction. I reserve the right to come back once I have a chance to think about it. How many of you are deep thinkers? Anybody's a deep thinker? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a deep thinker, a lot of times, it's hard for us to just say something right off the bat because we're just absorbing. But to Aleene's point, it's important for them to hear your voice, right? You just don't want to because you will not be invited to meetings again if every time you show up you really don't contribute, right? And I know sometimes we get into this space where we don't want to repeat what somebody else said. Um, I was always, of this mindset is like, I'm not just going to talk just to be talking, right? But even if you align with something someone says, say it, right? Yeah, I think what they said was a good idea. In addition, here's my initial thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So good, good. Anyone
Yeah.
else?
And to just add on that real quick, I think
Yes.
being a deep thinker, sometimes I think we kind of fall into the trap of that this is the obvious answer. So I don't have to say it because everyone's thinking it. But I noticed that a lot of the obvious answers people aren't thinking about. And so when you say, you're like,
Exactly.
oh, dang, okay. And so
Mhm.
even super like high level surface, I think even being able to learning how to say that because I'm definitely a person that's not, I don't want to talk if I don't feel like talking or need to talk. But
Mhm.
even just
Mhm.
giving some of those thoughts and points where you think is super obvious, it's not always the obvious answer for some people.
Yeah. And if you're someone who's very career minded, so you're really thinking about moving ahead, you just got to think about who you're competing with, right? Um so how do you stand out, right? And definitely um HR and leaders around you, the people who speak up are the people who are going to stand out, right? Um, And again, you don't have to be perfect, Aline, like you said, but be able to share something, right? Um, so thank you for that. Who else? Anyone else had anything you want to add to that? Good,
I would
Ariana.
say to that point, I would just say to become like a dependable member of the team, become
Mm-hmm.
someone that people can look to for advice, become someone that lends a hand if someone needs assistance. If you're free or if you have a light workload, get in the habit of asking your coworkers if they need any help and really help to contribute for the better of the team, and that will
Mm-hmm.
help to progress you as well.
Absolutely. Because again, the more people who have an insight in terms of who you are and what you do and what you're capable of, the better. You're starting to build your support system, right? So, anything else anyone has to add?
Yeah, it's kind of on the lines of what everybody else has said, but for me, I've made sure that I've also been a helping hand cross departmentally. So
Mm,
that helped me to not only show that I can handle the responsibilities that are currently mine, but I can take on more. And it has opened up opportunities for me in other departments, and other directors have gotten to see me, gotten to see my talent. Um, and it's just been a way for me to also tap into other transferable skills I've had prior to coming to this company. And yeah, so that's been very helpful to me.
how many of you have regular meetings with at least one person on a regular basis just to chat about what you're doing?
I do.
Yeah. Okay, good. It's important. Again, it's about building that support system so that when you're not in the room, you know you have someone who can speak about who you are. So let's talk about mentorship and support. What role have mentors, and one of you mentioned this during the intro, but what role have mentors, managers, or peers played in your professional growth so far? Is anything more you want to add that hasn't been said about that?
I guess for myself, I'll add really quickly that with the mentors I do have, they have one let me understand the skills I need to develop for the roles that I want, not now, but in the
Mhm.
future, right? So as I continuously develop my career, I can ask myself, am I building the competencies that are needed for me to succeed at X, Y, Z role, right? So certainly would advise for anybody to, just go to the mentor, ask that, right? For that next role, not the one I'm currently in, what would it actually look like, right? What would success look like? Are there things that candidly, if I can have an open conversation with you, that I need to develop now so I can succeed in that role then, right? So something that anyone can start today with those
Mhm.
conversations.
Thank you for that, Roderick. Anyone else
I'd
wanna
also
add? Go ahead, Demi.
I'd like to add like that my mentor, there's so many different moving pieces in the pharmaceutical industry that I wasn't aware of when I first went in. I'm just like, I'm in here to do my lab work and that's it. But having her introduce me to other people like in different departments within QC, as well as like quality control, as well as like manufacturing and just all over the building, it has allowed me to see how everything is like linked together,
Mhm.
for me to develop a deeper understanding of what I do, like not perform my job better, but like just know what I'm doing is very meaningful.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, understanding those connections, is important, and if you are career-minded, you're not gonna stay in one place for a
Mhm.
long period of time, right? So, being able to gain exposure to other areas is so important. What you're doing today, you may find, 2 or 3 years down the line, it's like, "You know what? I have an interest in a different area of the organization," right? So understanding how they all play together is so important. So thank you for that, Demi. Who else?
Yeah, I can add to, I think I just mentioned earlier, just having the mentor really empower me to
Mhm.
speak up within meetings and with my team, but then also being able to talk to her about like the career aspirations I had, and her being just super honest with me on what that could look like. So at the time when I was in Boston at the company before. She's the one that sent me the job listing for the one in LA, and I like probably wouldn't have applied if she didn't send it to me. But she was like, I feel like this would be a good move.
Mm-hmm.
At this company, it might not be the upward trajectory that you're looking for, and so just being super candid was like, this is probably what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up just applying off the one from her sending it to me, and then end up getting it. So really, just grateful and just shout out to her for really just like believing in me,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing potential, and sharing just those resources to even get this opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, when you're making those connections and you're sharing that type of information, Aline, um, folks, when they see stuff, they will do just that. Right? And that's what, because some of your organizations, I know some of y'all are working in some big organizations. So being able to have someone who is connected and has line of sight of other things that may even be cropping up, a couple of months from now is a good thing to do. Who else have a good relationship with your mentor or even your manager? Talk about your managers. How are you guys engaging with your managers?
I really appreciate my manager. I think that she's really open and always asking me if I have any questions, especially when I was starting off on the job too. But doing at least like monthly check-ins and almost like managing my manager to the point of advocacy and making sure that like she knows my goals, but also making sure that she knows my career progression and different things that I want to achieve within the company, and also just different like personal goals that I have aside from just the job that I'm doing as well is super important. But I would say just really leaning on my manager as a resource for a mentor, and then also just um, navigating the company a little bit more. They have a mentor program right now that I'm currently in. So I have a mentor that's positioned on a different team in upper leadership.
Okay.
And so being able to lean on my mentor in terms of questions, and my company is very open about just if you have any questions, like ping someone and ask. So if you
Mhm.
have any questions about other teams, really being able to like schedule meeting times with leaderships in different areas and learning about other teams too, because maybe you want to shift to another team or you're not necessarily sure of how that team engages with your team, and it all kind of comes together. So it's been really fun to, I would say, have my manager be my mentor, but also kind of start to implement other mentors in different areas of the company as well.
Yeah. That manager, direct report relationship is so important. I know I would a lot of times, again, sitting in these meetings, if a leader really couldn't tell me what someone's aspirations are, I'm just like, why do you not know that? Quarterly meetings at minimum, leaders should be having, but also make sure for yourself that if it's not happening, how do you make sure you're getting in front of your leader and ensuring that they know, to your point, Halim and Ariana, they know what it is that you're interested in, right? As well. So kudos for building that relationship with Ariana. Now, sometimes there could be some challenges with your manager, right? For those who, we're not gonna talk about current managers, y'all, but if you had some previous challenging managers, how did you navigate that? Previous. We ain't talking about current. If
Leaning on my
anybody
mentor.
if anybody's looking at this podcast in your circle, previous. Don't even have to be, yeah.
No,
But
I
just
think you
difficult
always,
relationships. Go ahead, Ariana.
I was going to say, I think you always need someone at the job or at your company to just vent to, or like know the people that you can. So understanding um, the company structure, the team structure, and knowing who you can go to talk to, even if it's
Mhm.
just about a bad day that you're having, and know that it won't affect you, and know that you can't do that with everyone as
You sure
well, because
can.
it might affect you if you do.
It
Um,
takes one time for it to go bad.
exactly.
Mhm.
But just having that resource, I would always say as well, befriending or knowing people at the company that have worked there for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
especially on your team or just within leadership. Definitely befriending that person who might understand the company structure and who the decision makers are within the team as well too. But definitely just managing your manager and having other outlets and resources to speak to.
Good. Anybody want to add anything to the conversation? Go
No,
ahead.
left. I certainly not talking about my current manager because he's
Yeah,
great,
we ain't talking
but
about current managers,
you know,
y'all.
he's great. But I had a manager in the past that I'll be honest was absolutely horrible, right? And it was just a conflict on every time I walked into the office, right? Wasn't able to honestly trust anything that he was doing. The way that he spoke to me, it was just outlandish. And I'm thankful for the fact that I built credibility with other people around the organization, including his peers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was critical because it after a certain point, people weren't questioning me, they were questioning him. It's like, Roderick's been here for actually longer in the organization. He's done well. He's a trustworthy person. Why is this guy acting like that? And then eventually people realized that, I was keeping doing the things I needed to do for my job, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that from that end, that's why it's important to build credibility beyond the silo of the person you're working with, beyond your team. Everyone needs to see the work that you do. Everyone needs to be able to trust it, right? Because in those moments, that's when it really matters.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else have anything you want to add to that? I'll tell you.
I
Go
would
ahead, dear.
I would say like for me it's just knowing like the difference between like who's a mentor to you and who's like a coach and who's your like advocate when you're not, like you said, in those rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think early on, if you're able to identify who those three people are, that's very helpful to you. Um, and yeah, they'll just help you get further along in your career once you identify that and knowing it's okay to have multiple mentors to go to because you might not um, go to the same person for the same thing. That
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Absolutely. The other role, and some people might get this a little later in their career, is also having a sponsor. Right? So your mentor is someone, as you guys have talked about, where you can, have conversations about a variety of different things. Your sponsor is going to be that person who, when opportunities come up, they will put your name forward, right? So, and they will be able to speak to you. And sometimes it could be a mentor that does that, right? Definitely your leader can play that role as well. But ensure, there's someone who, as we talked about earlier, who can speak about who you are so that as opportunities arise, you're not the only one kind of coming forward saying, I'm interested, but they also are putting your name forward as well. We didn't talk about the peer mentorship that much. And I'll tell you one of the things that I did, I had some colleagues, whenever we were in meetings, we would give each other feedback after, right? And that would be, again, it has to be someone you trust, right? But being able to have that person who you can have that honest conversation with, and you're both learning and growing together. But particularly if you're sitting in meetings at the same time, because oftentimes your mentor may not be that person who's in a meeting, right? So being able to say to a peer is like, "Oh God, how did I do? What did you think? Anything you would have done differently?" Right? Um, and by all means, asking your manager for feedback, right? As well. And being prepared to talk, as Demi mentioned earlier, you know, if you know that there was a situation that you may not have been able to handle the best, have some thoughts about, okay, what could you have done differently, right? Because that's as important as being able to actually do the job well, right? Being able to understand that there could have been some things that you could have done differently. Just shows that there were some lessons learned in that situation. So Appreciate it. Okay, so navigating challenges, and we talked a
Oh,
little
I was
bit.
going to
Go ahead,
have a
Ariana.
little
Yeah,
comment
go
on
ahead.
that. But once you do ask for feedback from your manager, I think it's very imperative to then follow up and show the progression that you've made with the comments that your manager has given and be able to show that you've implemented and made the adjustments that your manager has suggested as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Ariana. Anyone have anything else you want to add in that space? Okay, so we'll delve a little bit deeper into the navigating challenges. When you face a difficult situation at work, whether it was feedback, conflict, workplace dynamics, what has helped you to navigate them? And I know Demi, you talked about being able to share what you could have done differently, owning that space of where you may have made some mistakes. But anything else anyone want to add in that space?
I think one of the things I learned too was not making the same mistakes twice. I think you get a little grace when you do it one time, but as long as you're learning from those mistakes and learning how to um, like navigate your leadership style and things like that. You kind of learn those things along the way. But I think as long as you're showing that progression, you're taking ownership of some of those mistakes that you might have made. Like, okay, I know what I did wrong here. I know how I can
Mm-hmm.
improve the next time. I think as long as you're implementing those, I think that's when you figure out like how to handle those conflicts, and then you're able to draw on like past things that you've done and that was not always successful. And like, okay, I know what to flip now
Mm-hmm.
into do it in a better way.
Thank you for that. Anybody want to add to that?
I've had situations where like they thought something was my fault or like that I caused something to happen, but always staying like cool, calm, and collected when something like that happens until you
Mm-hmm.
understand like the whole story or like after an investigation is complete. um Staying cool, like not blowing up or anything, allows like them to see like okay, they really are, taking ownership for one if it was them, but also allowing us to do our job to see what really was the root cause of whatever could have happened. And then once they determine that it wasn't you or it was just like something else, um you're like off the hook, and it's you don't really have to apologize for doing anything because you
Mm-hmm.
didn't do anything. You just, went with the flow and then, just waited for the outcome because you knew that it wasn't you.
Yeah. And people watch how you respond to the good as well as the bad. So that's a great point, Demi. Just being able to um showcase how you're able to maturely manage a situation, whether it's good or bad, is so important. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I would say I always ask for feedback if I think that something might be wrong before I send it or submit it. I might just ping my manager really quickly or my supervisor and ask for them to review my work,
Okay.
just to try and prevent or be more cautious of. And I would say if I do make a mistake or if something happens, I usually keep track of the work that I'm doing or the project that I'm working on. So that's always something that I refer back to. And then I always make a note. My team knows I'm really big with notes. And so if I
Mhm.
do make a mistake
Mhm.
and my manager corrects it, I'm like, okay, I'll add it to my notes. And I just reference my notes after that. But they know I'm very big on note taking. They
Yeah.
called my notebook a training manual. So love a good note. So just taking a
Yeah.
note of it, making sure you don't make the same mistake twice.
And I like the fact that you're mentioning notes. It's so important. How many of you get to the end of the year and you're doing your review and you're trying to recall what you did for the year? Anyone? It's so important to jot down all the things that you're doing. Just keep a notebook or however you capture information so that when you get ready to talk about what you've accomplished for the year, you already have it listed. Right? And just go ahead as well as, mention the things that you have learned. What would be some better ifs, right? As well, I had a leader, and Roderick, this person, Sherry was big with, what's a better if, right? Um, and yeah, just being able to capture that so you're not having to scramble like, okay, what the heck did I do this year? So being able to capture notes is good. But anyone else in terms of navigating challenges?
The only thing I add is, you know, everyone's going to make a mistake on the job. But
Absolutely.
everyone, right? You're going to face that situation at some point. It's really about how you respond to it as well, right? And if you can be solution oriented as opposed to allowing someone else to just give you all the answers, right? You know, it really gives everyone the confidence that you can take care of your job, right? So if you mess
Mm-hmm.
up, you can go to your manager. It's okay to say, hey, this is a situation. This is my recommendation for resolving this matter. Given whatever information you know, more than likely it will lead to a good conversation, and you'll probably get good feedback from your from the team.
Yeah. Also showcases your strategic thinking, right? It's not just about um doing the job, but also how do you your critical thinking around how does this all kind of come together, and what are some ways for us to resolve a situation that may not have gone the way that we would have liked, right? So I like that, Roger. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I have something I can add. So, kind of what Roderick was saying is presenting a solution to the problem. Um, that always goes a long way. And also for me, I had to kind of work on how I communicate because I'm
Hmm.
naturally a quiet person. So I've noticed that when challenges appear, I'm cool, calm, and collected because I'm also deep thinking it through my head and like working through the problem and I'm just moving with it. So what I've done and learned to do is to actively communicate the problem, explain what's going on. So now then it comes a teaching moment between me and my peers. And now everybody's like, oh, okay, we don't necessarily need to go scream it's a fire or whatever going off.
Right.
We're calmly solving the problem and getting everything resolved. And then people are learning how to say, okay, when this happens, we need to do ABC. So that's helped me as far as navigating challenges.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I want to talk about managing energy because the one thing I know about some of y'all can get into this workaholic mode where you are, you're starting early in the morning, and then the next thing I know, I'm getting a call. I ain't gonna look at the person who's coming home late, or um who's just finishing up a project. How do you manage your energy and set boundaries for yourself? What are some of the things you've done?
So knowing that if something were to happen to me today, they would be looking for a replacement for me tomorrow. Um,
Mm,
I still like get my tasks done and prioritize what's necessary or like what's more important, like do that first. But also that comes with like managing your time well during the day because if they're assigning tasks for you to complete during the day, if you manage your time well, then you wouldn't necessarily not all the time, but like you wouldn't necessarily need to stay late or stay over or go home and work depending on your workplace situation. So I just think managing your time well and prioritizing helps like you have a better work life balance where you're not taking work into home and
mhm,
going over into your social life and other things that you would want to do. So I know personally for me that's what I like to do. I like to come in, do what I need to do and have that done or close to finishing.
mhm.
And then if something comes up, I have time to do that and I'm not stressed trying to figure out like trying to complete what needs to be done as well as what just came up.
Yeah. Anybody else? What tips you have in terms of managing? How are you managing your time and setting boundaries for yourself?
Yeah, I would say one thing that helped me a lot was being a student athlete. Having to manage time during school and football was like a full-time job and a full-time job. So going into the workplace was definitely one of the easier transitions for me just because I had learned how to do that in school, but just like having hard stops for myself of like I needed to take an hour or two of the day to just do what I feel like doing or I'm gonna go crazy.
Mhm.
So just having those hard boundaries and being able to set those. And I think going into the workplace, just like learning. I was just having a conversation with one of my coworkers. He said sometimes I'd be moving a little crazy during the office because I would like leave at 3:30, 4 to go work out, and then like go home and or do what I need to do. But he said one thing we know is like you work hard, so I already set that precedent of like I'm working hard and I'm always going to get the work done and it's always going to be right.
Right.
So setting that foundation, I think, gave me a little bit more leeway as I maneuver through my career, to people know that they'll get good results,
Hmm.
and also being able to keep my time and my boundaries because it's something that they won't be able to question.
Yeah. I tell you, you can't. I mean, even in school, I would stay up late, and I usually get my best energy late at night. But when I had to be in the office early, it's like, don't ask me anything too difficult. Don't tell me what I'm gonna say in the morning. But yeah, just balancing your time and understanding your energy levels when the times you get energy and being able to step away is so important to lean. Anyone else? What's your routine for yourself in terms of managing
Um,
boundaries for yourself?
For me, we get our schedule a week in advance. So that's
Mm-hmm.
been helpful for me to like break down my day to day. So I usually focus on one day at a time because that's easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then based off of that, I do prioritize what's more important to do first, to tackle first. And then sometimes I'm able to schedule myself to attend like different things within the company, like different lunch and learns, or we have different like craft activities or um, things around the company we can do. So I schedule it so that I can get that kind of a release by attending something fun or educational that's interesting to me, as well
Mm-hmm.
as still ensuring that I'm getting what I need to get done during the day.
Yeah, and you bring up an excellent point about development. Y'all make sure that you are doing at least one thing in a year, at minimum, where you're developing. You're doing something because you can get so caught up in the day to day that you forget to do that, and then you'll find yourself kind of being behind. So make sure you're doing something where you can continue to learn and grow in your space for yourself. But anyone has anything different than what was shared you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would just say that one thing I realized is nobody really understands the amount of work that you have to do for your specific job except for yourself, even your
Yeah.
manager. So as you think about that and you start having success in your career, and whether it's your manager, a VP, whoever starts adding projects to it because they know that you can do it well, right? That is when you need to be honest with yourself in terms of that balance, right?
Mhm.
What you need to make sure that you're executing well. What do you feel like if you add on X, Y, and Z, it's going to start allowing other things that are important to whether your personal, professional life to slip through the cracks, right? And the first step to actually making sure that that's to happen is to have an honest reflection with yourself, right?
Mhm.
Don't try to take on everything in the world, and that, at least for quite a few people, is when you start seeing issues when they come to the workforce.
Yeah, you burn yourself out, y'all. I mean, you really do if you don't take that time. You got to ask yourself, if I don't do this tonight, is the world going to fall apart? Got to ask yourself that question. Um Growth opportunities, and this is probably going to be the last question because I think the other question you guys answered. Can you share a moment where you stretched professionally and what you learned from that experience?
I know just recently I was given the opportunity to change roles, which aligned more with like my schedule. I didn't like my
Mhm.
previous schedule, but I knew
Mhm.
after talking with you that I just had to stay in it for a season. Um, so I was given the opportunity to move, and during that transition period, they wanted me to work like an even more crazy schedule that just didn't make any sense. And honestly, if I wouldn't have been in like your first cohort, I probably would have just been like, yes, like I'll do it, it's fine. But I knew better. So I was like, no, like I need time to think about this. And I wanted to talk to the other people involved because at that point, just one party was coming to me asking me like to work a different schedule, but I hadn't heard from all of the other parties. So something seemed off, but I just wasn't sure.
Mhm.
But after speaking with like the other parties involved, that wasn't the complete truth. So I didn't have to end up working like a crazy schedule, and I did get the schedule that I want while still helping out like both teams during my transition.
Mhm.
So just like asking questions and sticking up for yourself, and of
Absolutely.
course your help.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the one thing and Ariana, I think you have shared this with me. The worst thing anybody can say is no, right? So, you know, if you have something that you want to have a question you want to ask or idea, you know, okay, the worst thing they could say is no. So what do you do? What do you do in that instance, but kind of be prepared for yourself. But growth moments for you guys where you really stretched yourself. Anyone else has anything you want to add
I'll,
to that? Get it,
I'll
Ariana.
add. And I only am thinking about it because it was with my first job in admissions. And I remember I was about to leave for grad school. And so I was scheduling coffee chats with just about everyone. And with the VP of the office, we sat down and I asked him one piece of advice that he would give to me from his early career professional development. And so he always said to come with ideas and try to improve processes. And so
Mhm.
I remember I took that and I ran with it and I created a whole proposal for how we could potentially improve media within the office. And we had our one-on-one conversation. It didn't end up coming to fruition, but I always took away just that learning experience of having a conversation with someone in upper level management and really just taking that advice and implementing it. And I try to take that into consideration every time I take a new position and I'm in a whole new field. But taking that and even just within your current role, being the person that's able to look at current processes and come up with different ways to maximize efficiency and productivity within the department that you're in. That was the one piece of advice that he gave to me that I always like to pay forward to.
Thank you, Ariana. Anyone else and advice that you and also let's add to it advice you would give to someone else. So what one of the things that
Mhm.
stretched you
I
professionally,
do
what you
have
learned from that
advice.
experience? What you say,
Um,
Demi?
I do have advice. Like one thing I would say is like stand your ground, but learn how to do it professionally.
Good point. Yes, ma'am. Even if you have to talk it through with somebody. Absolutely. Anyone else want to add to that? Something that stretched you, and advice you would give to others?
Yeah, I would say that you can't really grow if you're doing the same things and the only things that you feel confident that you know how to do, right? So
Absolutely.
that's especially for me been a great learning experience over the past year and a half, I would say. Um, Candidly, you're going to be in situations where things are just ambiguous, right? And that's okay. And to be quite frank, if they're putting your job is putting you in situations that are ambiguous, it's because they know that you have the confidence to find solutions for them, right?
Right.
So have the confidence to actually take on the unknown, that you'll succeed, you'll find the answer to it. And when you do that, you'll be able to start taking those next leaps in your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that, Aline?
Yeah, I think for the advice, I think the worst someone can say is no is one that really helped me. And just kind of to share a story, when I was trying to find a job and when I was in project management, I was like, okay, I need to pivot and I need to get out of this and do something that I want to do. Just reaching out to a bunch of people on LinkedIn. And my dad was like, where someone can tell you is no. So you just reach out as much as you can. He was like, reach out to the CMO. Like, you'll never know what they're going to say.
Mhm.
So I reached out to the CMO of New Balance and just like, let's see what happens. And now I have a direct line with him because he responded to that message. And so I kind of check in with him like maybe twice a year. at this major company just because my dad was like, you never know what someone's going to say. You never know what they're looking at. If he didn't respond, he just doesn't respond. But that became like a really important connection to me. And it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of opened up my eyes to like, okay, I can reach out to whoever. And if they say no, I can always pivot. But I can't make the shot if I don't shoot the shot. So that was really important and like an eye-opening thing that definitely helped me and still helping me within my career.
Yeah, and some people are so afraid, you think the only person you can talk to is your direct manager, right? But again, when you think about the chain of command, and no, they're not going to meet with you every month, right? And you don't want to be in that space every month, right? But you know, make it a point to get to talk to someone, especially someone who's in the chain of command of an area that you might be interested in, right? I'll go ahead and establish that connection with them and some kind of cadence in terms of how you talk. And Aline, you said it perfectly. Someone that senior, if you meet with them twice a year, believe me, they're going to remember those conversations, right? And again, they're the people who oftentimes are the decision makers or have to approve, well, decision makers and approve something that's going on. So, um, good point. Anyone else? Last comment you want to make in terms of this conversation we're
Mhm.
having? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Bria.
For me, I'll speak to something that stretched me. I've always been known within my group to be creative. So there was an opportunity to think of like a way to advocate for safety within the company. And I got put on the assignment, and from that, it made me have to work with learning development because that's not the realm I'm in the company.
Mhm.
And from that and my ideas and things we've done at like team outings, I was able to like create a safety escape room with our L&D department, which was pretty cool. And it helped me see or help me learn how we're teaching safety within the company. So that was something I did. And then for my advice, I would say that you don't have to lose yourself at your job.
Mm.
If you ever feel like somebody's trying to change what you think is morally right or wrong, I would be wary of that. And then also, there's pharma is big, so I'm speaking for people who are interested in pharma. You can have several different careers in pharma, so you don't have to feel boxed into one group.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, y'all, I appreciate this conversation and your insights. You all have definitely learned some things from your journey in terms of navigating the workplace. So I appreciate all of you. I'm going to put you in the green room if you all can just wait there for me while I close myself out. But thank you, thank you to all of my guests who have joined for part one of my career evolution series. And as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who may have came in a little late, the next career evolution episode will deal with those who are mid-career. It's going to focus on the pivot. So stay tuned. And for those of you who watched my very special episode I did in February, I stepped into a space around dating and relationships, but dating after 50. And we are going to have a part two because everybody wanted a part two. But check out my page. It will not be a live stream. It will be in the form of I'm calling it a fireside chat, and I will share the links for that. The links are on my page. But thank you for joining, and please share the video. I understand a lot of people can't watch live, but if you know someone who you believe this conversation will benefit, please share. Please share my website. Please share my YouTube channel if you're watching from YouTube. And y'all, until next time, I'll see you. Have a great, great, great rest of the week and a fabulous weekend. Bye.